Let's run through everything you need to know about one-leg deadlifts or one-leg Romanian deadlifts, where the key movement is a hip hinge, which means a forward fold from your hips, while one leg is kicking back, and you'll be holding a weight in most cases. And we'll start here with holding the weight in both hands. Right now I'm grabbing the kettlebell with both my hands. This helps keep my shoulders locked, or rather just squared up. And the same effect could be done with two dumbbells, for example here. I find that holding two dumbbells or holding a kettlebell with two hands keeps your alignment really good so that your shoulders and hips are moving together in the same plane without any spinal rotation. Okay, so now let's look at a contralateral pattern. Here I'm standing on my right leg, holding the weight in my left hand. And this will generally load your glute max more, especially if you manage to keep your free hip, in this case the left hip, keep that low. If you lift it up like a half moon pose in yoga, then you're not gonna see any glute max. Next up is an ipsilateral variation, where you'll be gripping the weight with the same hand as the leg you're standing on. This variation also challenges the hamstrings and glutes, but will also subtly challenge your inner thighs. However, don't open your hip. Same point as before, we don't want the free hip to lift too high, because then we might as well be doing windmills or some other exercise that purposefully opens the hip, lengthening the adductors. A good way to see if your hip is opening too much is the direction your foot is pointing when you're at the bottom of the hinge. So my foot is externally rotated slightly there. There's definitely a little bit of lift of my left hip compared to my right, but it's pretty flat. Hopefully I could place a glass of water without too much trouble. And here comes trouble. This is what we don't want to see. We don't want your foot to completely flare out, your foot or your knee to point out like that. This definitely means you're starting to avoid loading your outer hamstrings and your glutes. So get some feedback, do a video of yourself, you'll easily see it if it's there. Another way to know that you're doing it right is to actually feel your glutes lengthening as you drop into the exercise. So my hands are right there on the biggest part of my butt, even though my butt is not very big. But there it is, and I'm feeling under my shorts how my glutes are lengthening in each rep. And of course, you should also generally just feel hard work in your hamstrings, glutes, and lower back doing this exercise. Keep in mind, this is a hip-dominant movement, so we want to start the movement from the hips, finish the movement from the hips, and we don't want the spine to help in any significant way, just to stay long and relaxed. So what's happening in this frame is my lower back is way too arched and tight. And it might feel good, it might feel like it protects you, especially if you're lifting a heavy weight, but you're not learning to move from your hips. Another thing that easily happens is when people want to touch the floor with the dumbbell, then they're gonna often go into spinal flexion quite a lot because they don't feel that satisfying touchdown of the weight. And that's actually one reason why kettlebells can be nice for beginners. They're higher off the ground, they require less flexibility, and this can really help somebody who flexes their spine a lot because the urge to compensate will be less. And if this is you, hopefully this will help you move better, hinge better within the current flexibility that you have. A final pattern of compensation that I'll highlight is to side bend. So in the frontal plane, if you start shortening one side versus the other, this is another smart way for the body to avoid loading up the outer hamstrings and glutes. So what I'm saying is it's basically the same as doing this, except instead of rotating your pelvis in the transverse plane, now you're shifting your hip in the frontal plane. Now with all these patterns mentioned, remember that compensations are strategies. Your body's doing its very best to lift that weight. Just be mindful not to go too heavy, because then your body will compensate more. So start super light until you feel like, and you've seen from the outside, that you're doing a beautiful hinge from your hips, and then start loading that up really heavy, challenging yourself, getting a better one leg balance and a way stronger hinge.